My daughter's husband thought robbing me would be easy. He saw me as an old man, someone too weak to fight back. He believed I would never notice what he was planning. But he was wrong, very wrong. Behind my silence, I carried something he could never imagine. Something that would change everything the moment he tried to cross me. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. That day, when I realized what he was about to do, I stayed calm on the outside, but inside I was already preparing for the fight of my life. My name is Raymond Mercer, and that night everything started with a gift. It was Damien who gave it to me. My daughter's husband, a luxury watch, shining under the dining room light like it belonged to a king. He slid the box across the table with that smile of his, too perfect, too rehearsed. "Respect, Raymond," he said. "A man like you deserves nothing less." I forced a smile, but something inside me twisted. That watch wasn't respect, it was bait. I could feel it the moment I touched it. Elena, my daughter, clapped her hands like a child. "Dad, look, isn't it beautiful? Damien wanted you to have something special." I didn't want to embarrass her, so I nodded, but my chest felt heavy. Patricia, my sister, leaned close and whispered, "Don't overthink it, Ray. Sometimes generosity is just generosity." But I knew better. With Damien, nothing was ever free. Harvey, my old friend, was sitting across the table. I caught his eyes. He had seen it too, Damien's smug little grin, while everyone else admired the gift. That grin wasn't kindness. It was pride. Pride that he had stepped one more foot into my life. My mind drifted back to the last time Damien and I had spoken alone. He had cornered me in the study, talking about money, business, investments, always pushing, always wanting me to let him in. I had refused, of course. My wealth was my family's safety, not his playground. But that night, watching his smile, I realized he hadn't stopped. He was still finding ways to break through. When dinner ended, I excused myself. I didn't wear the watch. I didn't even leave it on the dresser. No, I carried it to my study and placed it inside the safe, out of sight, out of reach. But even after locking it away, I didn't feel safe. I poured myself a glass of water and sat at my desk, staring at the safe. My hands tapped the wood. My chest tightened. Why did a simple gift feel like a trap? Hours later, after everyone had gone to bed, I walked back to the study. I wanted to check the lock again, just to be sure. My fingers touched the handle. It was slightly warm. I froze. The door was open. Not wide, just an inch. Enough to show me that someone had been there. The hairs on my neck rose. My heartbeat thumped in my ears. I pushed the door slowly. The darkness inside swallowed me. The safe was still in the corner, closed, untouched. At least it looked that way. I stood there in the silence, my breath shallow. Someone had been in my study. Someone had touched the door. I always locked myself, and deep down I didn't need proof. I already knew who it was. Damien, the man who called himself my son-in-law. The man who smiled at me across the dinner table. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wide awake. Every creak in the house felt like footsteps. Every shadow looked like him, moving closer. I knew then, the watch wasn't a gift. It was the beginning of something far darker. And Damien, he had just made his first move. That night I couldn't shake the uneasiness. The luxury watch sat locked inside my study safe, but my mind was restless. I kept replaying Damien's smug grin during dinner, the way he looked at me as if he already owned something of mine. The house was quiet. Elena sat beside me, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Elena," I said softly, "tell me again, what exactly does Damien do for work?" She shifted in her seat. Her eyes avoided mine. "He's doing fine, Raymond. Business, investments. You wouldn't understand." I frowned. "Investments? Which ones?" But she got up quickly, brushing off the question. "Don't overthink. He's trying to show you respect." Her words didn't calm me. They only made me more alert, because I knew my daughter. When she avoided details, it meant there was something to hide. The next day, Damien showed up in another expensive suit. Gold cufflinks, a shiny new car parked in front of my house. He bragged loudly at the table, dropping hints about connections and profits. But when I pressed him, He laughed and changed the subject. I didn't like it. Money without explanation is dangerous. Patricia, my sister, leaned over to me later. Raymond, let it go, please. You always worry too much. If you keep digging, you'll push Elena away. Let's keep the family together. Her words cut deep. Family together, that was all I wanted. But what if Damien wasn't here for family at all? Harvey, my old friend, visited that evening. He sat across from me in the study. His voice was low, serious. Mercer, I don't like that man. He's not just showing off wealth. He looks like a man hungry for power. Watch him closely. He's hiding something. His warning only confirmed what I already felt in my gut. I remembered Damien's earlier pushy talks about money, and now his sudden wealth. It didn't add up. Even Elena, my own daughter, seemed nervous whenever Damien spoke. She glanced at him quickly, as if checking his reaction before she opened her mouth. That broke my heart. What hold did he have on her? That night, sleep didn't come. I paced the hall. I heard faint whispers from the other side of the house. I froze. It was Damien. His voice was low but sharp, coming from the guest room. He was on the phone. I stepped closer, careful not to make a sound. The old man's assets, he said. My blood ran cold. The old man, that was me. I leaned against the wall, straining to hear more. He trusts too easily. Soon it'll all be ours. Just wait. I felt my stomach twist. My daughter's husband, plotting behind my back. My hand shook as I pulled out my phone. Quietly, I pressed record. His words slipped into the device, clear enough to haunt me forever. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught enough to know Damien's respect was a lie. His gift wasn't kindness, it was bait. Standing there in the shadows of my own house, I realized one thing. Damien wasn't just after money, he was after control, and he thought I was too blind to see it. But he had no idea, I had just started watching. The next morning, I called Harvey over. My hands were trembling as I played the recording for him in my study. Damien's voice filled the room, clear as day. The old man's assets. Soon it'll all be ours. Harvey froze, his eyes narrowed, and his jaw clenched like stone. He didn't even breathe until the audio ended. Mercer, he said slowly. This is bad, very bad. He's not just after Elena's heart, he's after your money. Your life's work. If you sit still, you'll lose everything. You need proof. Real proof. Dig deeper. His words cut into me like cold steel. For years I had built everything with my own two hands. Now it sounded like this man, this parasite, was planning to rip it away. I felt anger boiling inside, but there was fear too. Fear that maybe I was already too late. That evening, I couldn't sit still. I walked the house like a restless ghost, room to room, my mind racing. Finally, I sat at my desk and stared at the phone. There was only one man I could call. Elliot, I said when he picked up. It's Raymond Mercer. I need your help. Elliot Crane was a private investigator. Not flashy, not cheap. But he was thorough. The kind of man who found answers others wanted to hide. I need you to look into someone, Damien, my son-in-law. Whatever you find, good or bad, I need to know. Elliot didn't waste time with questions. He only said, consider it done. For the next few days, life in my home became heavier. Elena barely looked at me. When I spoke, she gave me short, cold answers. I could feel her slipping away, caught between her father and her husband. One night, I tried to reach her heart. Elena, I whispered, stopping her as she passed me in the hall. You're my daughter. I've protected you all your life. I know you think I'm being hard on Damien, but please, trust me. He's hiding something. Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. Why can't you just accept him, Dad? Why do you always find fault in the people I love? You're going to drive me away. Her words shattered me. She pulled her arm away and walked off. For the first time, I felt like a stranger in my own house. Patricia saw it too. The next morning, she sat across from me at the kitchen table. Her hands were trembling as she stirred her coffee. Raymond, she pleaded, her voice soft but desperate. Please stop this. You're tearing the family apart. If you keep pushing, you'll lose Elena forever. Maybe Damien isn't perfect, but he's her choice. Let her live her life. I stared at her. My sister wanted peace at any cost. But what she didn't understand was that peace with a man like Damien was an illusion. Damien didn't help matters. At every family dinner or gathering he mocked me. He laughed at my old-fashioned ways, told stories where I came off like some clueless old man. Everyone forced nervous laughs, but I saw the smugness in his eyes. He enjoyed it. He wanted to show everyone I was weak, finished, irrelevant. But I wasn't finished, not yet. 1 week later, Elliot came back. He didn't smile. He looked like a man who had seen something rotten. He set a thick folder on my desk. "Your instincts were right," he said. "Damien isn't clean. He's tied to shell companies. Fake businesses, fake accounts. Money's moving around, and it doesn't belong to him. He's laundering. He's stealing." My heart pounded as I flipped through the papers. Every page was another nail in the coffin of Damien's lies. But Elliot wasn't done. He slid one more paper toward me. "You need to see this, Mercer." I picked it up, and my stomach dropped. It was a bank statement, mine. Funds were missing, not small amounts, large sums, quietly drained, hidden behind transfers I never approved. I stared at the numbers until the room seemed to spin. This wasn't just Damien circling like a wolf. He had already sunk his teeth into me, into my family, into everything I had built. And at that moment, the truth hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't just about protecting Elena anymore. It was about survival. Dinner that night felt like walking into a trap. The table was set beautifully, candles lit, silverware shining. But the air was heavy. Everyone knew there was tension. Everyone felt it. I sat at the head of the table. Damien sat across from me, smiling like he owned the room. Elena sat beside him, her hand in his. Patricia moved nervously between the kitchen and the table, trying too hard to keep everything normal. Harvey was the only one silent, watching. Halfway through the meal, I leaned back in my chair and looked straight at Damien. My voice was calm, but inside my blood boiled. "So Damien, tell us again about this new business of yours. What exactly do you do that keeps you so busy and so wealthy?" The fork in his hand paused for a second. Just a second, then his grin widened. "Oh, Mr. Mercer," he said smoothly, "it's nothing you'd find exciting. Just investments, opportunities. The kind of things younger men chase." He winked at Elena. She laughed softly, squeezing his hand. I noticed the way she leaned toward him, protective. I pressed harder. "Strange, I asked Elena last week, and she couldn't explain much either. You keep your cards close to your chest, don't you?" The room went quiet. Patricia's hand trembled as she set down her glass. "Raymond, please," she whispered. "Not tonight." But Damien only smiled wider, like this was a game. "Well, sir, some men build their lives one brick at a time. Others know how to skip ahead. I suppose I'm just efficient." His words were polished, but his eyes were mocking me. He wanted me to feel small in front of my own family. Elena frowned at me. "Dad, why are you doing this? Can't you just be happy for us?" Her voice cut deep. It felt like betrayal, even though I knew she didn't understand what I knew. Patricia reached over, touching my arm. Her voice shook. "Raymond, please, let it go. We've had enough fighting." I looked at her hand, then at Damien's smirk. My sister begging me to drop it, while the man stealing from me sat across the table, pretending to be a gentleman. My throat tightened with anger, but I swallowed it down, for now. Then Harvey noticed something. His sharp eyes caught details no one else did. He leaned slightly forward, his gaze fixed on Elena's wrist. A thin line of bruises peeked out from under her sleeve. His face tightened, but he said nothing. Not yet. He only looked at me for a brief second, a silent warning in his eyes. Something's very wrong. That night, after the table cleared and everyone retreated, I made my decision. I couldn't just fight Damien head-on. He was too slippery, too clever. If I went at him without proof, I'd lose Elena forever. So I began keeping duplicates of every record, every account, every contract. If he tried to move money, I would see it. If he touched what was mine, I'd know. I called Elliot the next morning. "He's clever," I said, But men like him don't work alone. Find out who's backing him. Who's helping him. Elliot's voice was steady. Understood. I'll start pulling threads. Every man like Damien leaves a trail, and a partner. That night, I walked past the coat rack. Damien's jacket hung there. Something about it felt wrong. Too heavy for just a dinner jacket. I slipped my hand inside the pocket. My fingers froze. It was a small cold piece of metal, a key. Not just any key. I knew the shape instantly. The ridges, the size. It was a duplicate to my safe. The safe where I kept my most private records, where I stored my will, my deeds, the legacy of Raymond Mercer. I stood there, the key burning in my palm. My chest felt tight. Rage, fear, betrayal, all at once. Damien wasn't just circling me. He wasn't just mocking me. He was inside my world already. And if I didn't stop him soon, everything I had built, my family, my name, my blood would be gone. The duplicate key felt like fire in my hand. I stared at it for hours, unable to sleep. By morning I couldn't hold it in anymore. I had to confront Elena. I waited until Damien left for work. Elena came into the living room, her hair tied back, her face pale from exhaustion. She tried to smile, but her eyes avoided mine. That told me enough already. I placed the key on the table between us. My voice was sharp. Do you know what this is? Her face drained of color. She froze. Her hands shook as she reached for the key, but I pulled it back. Elena, I said, don't lie to me. Why does your husband have a copy of the key to my safe? She broke. Her lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes. And then suddenly, she crumbled onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. Dad, I didn't want to. I swear I didn't want to. Damien, he forced me. My chest tightened. I stepped closer, trying to understand. Forced you how? She lifted her sleeve. Bruises. The same ones Harvey had noticed at dinner. My heart dropped. He said if I didn't get him the key, he'd hurt me. He said he'd ruin everything. Dad, I didn't know what to do. Her voice cracked, her body shaking. I wanted to hold her, protect her like when she was little. But rage boiled inside me. Not at her, but at him. Before I could speak, Patricia walked in. She stopped when she saw Elena crying. Her face went pale. Patricia, I said slowly, did you know about this? My sister's eyes flickered with guilt. She looked at Elena, then at me. Her lips trembled before she whispered, yes, I knew. I felt like the ground disappeared under my feet. You knew? My voice thundered. And you said nothing? Patricia clasped her hands together, shaking. I was scared, Raymond. He told me to stay quiet or he'd turn Elena against us. He said no one would believe us. I thought if I kept the peace, it would pass. Her excuses cut me deeper than any knife. My sister, the woman who stood beside me for decades, she had chosen silence. I turned away from both of them, my chest heavy. I had been blind. I had missed every sign. My daughter's bruises, her nervous laughter. Patricia's trembling voice at dinner. I was supposed to protect my family. And yet here we were, living in fear of one man. I clenched the key in my fist so hard it dug into my skin. Guilt, betrayal, anger. It all mixed until I could barely breathe. That's when the front door opened. Damien walked in, calm, casual, smiling like he owned the place. He stopped when he saw Elena crying and Patricia pale with fear. His eyes slid to me, and then to the key in my hand. For a moment no one moved. Then he laughed. Not loud, just a low, smug laugh that made my skin crawl. Well, he said smoothly, seems like we're all having a family chat. Did I interrupt something? I wanted to rip him apart right there. But I held myself back. I knew I had to be smart. I stepped toward him, my voice steady but sharp. You've gone too far, Damien. Threatening my daughter, stealing from me. This ends now. But Damien didn't flinch. He didn't shout. He leaned close so only I could hear. His breath brushed my ear as he whispered, I own this family already. Then he leaned back, smirking, like nothing had happened. I stood frozen, my fist shaking. Elena's sobs filled the room. Patricia's silence stabbed me in the back. And Damien Damien looked like the devil who had just declared victory. But deep down I made a silent vow. No matter what it took, I would prove him wrong. After Damien whispered those words, I own this family already. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat alone in my study, the house quiet but my mind racing. His smirk, Elena's tears, Patricia's silence, it all replayed in my head like a curse. I made myself a promise, a hard, cold one. I won't let him win, I whispered out loud. The next morning, I sat with Elena. She looked broken, her eyes red from crying all night. I held her hands tight. Elena, I said softly, listen to me. No matter what Damien has done, no matter what he thinks, he will not destroy this family. I will protect you. I swear it. She shook her head. Dad, he's too powerful. You don't know the things he's into. Her voice cracked. Fear was eating her alive, but that only fueled my resolve. Later that day, while no one was watching, I went to the bank. I quietly moved part of my savings into a hidden account under a different name. If Damien thought he had access to everything, he was dead wrong. I needed backup. I needed weapons he couldn't see. That night, Elliot came by. He had been digging into Damien's background. He slid a folder across my desk. Ray, he said, lowering his voice. Your son-in-law isn't just greedy. He's dangerous. He's tied to organized fraud rings, offshore accounts, fake businesses. He's not just stealing, he's building an empire. I flipped through the papers, my stomach turned. Fraud, laundering, names of shady men I'd never heard of. Damien wasn't just a thief in my home. He was part of something much bigger. Harvey came over later, his face set in anger. He slammed his hand on my desk. Raymond, stop hesitating. You need to crush him. Expose him. Drag him through the mud before he destroys everything you built. I looked at him, my oldest friend. His words burned with truth, but also with danger. I can't just go public, Harvey, I muttered. Elena will be torn apart. She'll be humiliated. Do you think I want my daughter's name on every headline? My chest ached. I was caught between justice and protecting the child I raised. Then Patricia came into the room, her hands trembling. She had overheard. Raymond, please, she begged. Don't do this to Elena. Don't drag her into a public scandal. She's already suffering. If you go after Damien openly, she'll be destroyed along with him. Her words cut deep. I knew she wasn't defending Damien anymore. She was just desperate to shield Elena. Still, her fear clashed with my rage. The very next day, Damien made sure I saw him. He pulled up to the house in a brand new luxury car, music blasting, sunglasses on. He revved the engine like a boy showing off. I stood by the porch watching him with cold eyes. He smiled wide, rolling down the window. Nice ride, huh, Raymond? You should try living a little. Life's too short for small dreams. Small dreams. That's what he called my life. My hard work. My sacrifices. He flaunted stolen money like trophies while mocking everything I stood for. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles turned white, but I didn't react. Not in front of him. He wanted to see me snap. Instead, I just stared until he drove off, his laughter echoing down the street. Later that night, I found something waiting for me at the front door, an envelope. No name, no return address. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were photographs, clear ones. They showed Elena sitting in an office. Across from her was a man in a suit, a lawyer. My heart raced. Why was she meeting a lawyer? Why in secret? Did Damien send her? Was she turning against me? I sank into a chair, clutching the photos. My mind spun with questions. The walls around me felt like they were closing in. What was my daughter hiding now? When I saw those photos of Elena with the lawyer, my chest felt tight. My first thought was that Damien had set me up, that he had turned my own daughter against me. I barely slept that night. I kept staring at the envelope, replaying every conversation I'd had with Elena. The next morning, I called the law office. The man in the photo was attorney Nora Vance. I went there myself, walking in with my heart pounding. She recognized me the moment I introduced myself. Mr. Mercer, she said carefully. Your daughter came to me a few weeks ago. She wanted advice on divorce, but she didn't go through with it. She seemed trapped. I sank into the chair. My daughter had wanted out. She had seen the monster Damien really was, but something or someone had stopped her. I didn't need to guess who. Damien had probably cornered her, scared her back into silence. Nora leaned forward. "Mr. Mercer, if you're ready to fight this man, I can help. Legally you have more power than you think, but you'll need to move carefully. He has resources and dangerous connections." Her words lit a small fire inside me. I wasn't alone. Maybe I did have a way to fight back. But Damien seemed to sense every step I made. That weekend he threw a party at one of my properties, without even asking. He decorated it like he owned the place. Lights, music, expensive champagne. Every corner of that mansion screamed of stolen wealth. He paraded around with Elena on his arm, like a prize he had won. I stood at the edge of the room, watching. I felt rage boil in my stomach, but I kept it locked down. I couldn't give him the satisfaction. Harvey joined me, his eyes scanning the crowd. He nudged me slightly. "Raymond," he whispered, "look over there." In a corner, two men were huddled together, their voices low. They weren't dressed like the other guests. No tuxedos, no laughter. Just sharp eyes and tense whispers. I caught a few words as I passed. His land. Papers, sign over. My throat went dry. Damien wasn't just here to show off. He was plotting something with my properties, my empire. The very foundation of my life's work. I went looking for Elena. I found her standing alone, a glass of wine untouched in her hand. She looked pale, almost fragile. "Elena?" I said quietly. "Listen to me. Whatever Damien puts in front of you, don't sign. Do you understand? Not a single thing. He's trying to pull you into something bigger than you realize." She looked up at me, her lips trembling. "Dad, I don't know how much longer I can do this." I put my hand on her shoulder. "Stay strong, I'll protect you. But promise me, don't sign." She nodded, tears filling her eyes, and I knew she was barely holding on. The party grew louder, music thundering through the walls. Damien finally made his entrance to the center of the room. He wore a black suit, shining shoes, and a smile so wide it made my blood boil. He raised his glass like a king, addressing his kingdom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he shouted, "tonight is not just about celebration, tonight is about the future. My future, our future." People clapped, laughed, toasted, but then he spotted me across the room. His grin widened, and he started walking my way. Every step he took felt heavy, like he was closing in on me. He leaned close, his voice low so only I could hear. The music around us kept the others from noticing. "Your empire," he whispered with a smirk, "is mine soon." His words cut deeper than any knife. My fists tightened at my side, but I forced myself not to react. Not yet, because deep inside, I knew the game was far from over. And I swore to myself, I'd make him regret every single word. The night after Damien's party, I couldn't shake his words out of my head. "Your empire is mine soon." They rang in my ears like a curse. I went home restless, and that's when I realized something that had been bothering me for weeks. Patricia, my sister, had been distant, too quiet. Almost as if she was hiding something. The next morning, I confronted her. "Patricia," I said sharply, "why have you been silent through all of this? Why do you never speak up about Damien? He's destroying everything we built." She froze, her hands trembled as she put down her coffee cup. Tears filled her eyes before she even said a word. "Raymond, I couldn't tell you. Damien, he has something on me. He threatened me. He said if I spoke against him, he would ruin me, and Elena would hate me forever." My heart sank. My own sister had been living under his shadow too. "What does he have on you?" I asked, my voice low. She looked down. "Years ago, I invested some money without telling you. It failed. Damien found out. He said he would tell Elena that her mother betrayed you unless I stayed quiet." I was scared. I stepped back, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. Damien had found everyone's weakness. He had trapped Patricia with secrets and guilt, just like he trapped Elena with fear. And Elena, she was slipping further away from me. Damien kept her isolated. He whispered poison into her ears. He turned her against her own parents, telling her we only cared about money, that we wanted to control her life. One night, I saw it myself. Elena avoided my calls for days. When I finally showed up at her house, Damien didn't let me in. He stood at the door with that smug smile. "She doesn't want to see you," he said. I heard Elena's voice in the background, faint, but full of frustration. "Damien, stop, please." But the door slammed shut before I could say another word. I drove away, my chest burning. That wasn't my daughter speaking. That was Damien's control. Meanwhile, Elliot, my most trusted man, had been digging. He stormed into my office with a file in hand. "Raymond, you need to see this. Damien's been forging signatures, your signature. He's been signing contracts in your name, selling and buying under Mercer Holdings." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Elena anymore. This was theft, fraud. A full-blown takeover. I met with Nora, the attorney. I laid everything out. She listened carefully, her brow furrowed. "Raymond, this is serious," she said. "But listen to me. If we move too fast without solid proof, Damien will twist it. He'll call it a family feud. He'll make Elena defend him in court. We need undeniable evidence, something he can't explain away." Her words made sense, but Harvey didn't agree. When I told him, he slammed his hand on the table. "Raymond, this is it. This is enough. You need to expose him now, before he takes everything. Waiting is exactly what he wants." The pressure pulled me in two directions. Act too soon, and I could lose Elena. Wait too long, and Damien would strip me of everything. That evening I parked near Elena's place, just hoping to catch a glimpse of her. That's when I saw her, sitting alone in her car. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, her head leaning forward, tears running down her cheeks. I wanted to rush to her, to hold her, to tell her everything would be okay, but I stayed back. My daughter was breaking in silence, and it tore me apart. Damien had trapped her in a prison of fear. I went back to my office late at night, hoping to clear my head. But when I opened the door, my stomach dropped. The lights were on, papers were everywhere. My desk drawers had been forced open, files, contracts, confidential documents, all gone. Someone had ransacked my office. I stood frozen in the doorway, realizing exactly what this meant. Damien wasn't waiting anymore. He was moving fast, and now he had everything. When I saw my office ransacked, I knew it wasn't some random break-in. This was Damien's doing. But the next day, what I discovered cut me deeper than anything else. Elliot came in with his head low. He didn't want to look me in the eyes. "Raymond," he said softly. "We know how he got in. He didn't force his way. Someone gave him the access codes." My chest tightened. "Who?" I asked, though I already felt sick inside. Elliot paused, then whispered, "It was Elena. She gave them to Damien. She thought he was changing. He told her he wanted to rebuild trust with you. She believed him." The air left my lungs. My own daughter. The child I raised, loved, and protected. She handed him the keys to destroy me. Not out of hate, but out of blind hope. Out of the same weakness Damien always exploited. I sat in my chair, staring at the floor. My hands shook. How many times must she get burned before she sees the truth? A few hours later, Damien came to see me. He walked into my ruined office like it was his victory parade. He leaned against my desk, smiling. "Raymond," he said, "you fought me hard. I'll give you that. But you've lost. Even your own blood works for me now." Those words pierced straight into my chest. I wanted to hit him, to throw him out with my bare hands. But I couldn't. He had Elena twisted in his web, and if I lost control, she'd never come back to me. Still, my silence must have given him satisfaction. He smirked and walked out, leaving me crushed. That night Patricia broke down. She'd been holding her pain in for weeks, but this betrayal pushed her too far. I found her in the living room, shaking, her face pale. "Raymond, I can't take it anymore," she cried. "He's tearing this family apart. He's turning our daughter against us. And you're falling apart too. It's killing me." Her voice broke, and suddenly her knees buckled. She collapsed on the floor. "Patricia," I shouted, rushing to her side. My heart pounded as I held her. I could see the stress had taken everything from her, her strength, her will. In that moment, I knew, this wasn't just about money or power anymore. This was about survival. Damien was destroying us from the inside out. The next day, Harvey couldn't hold back his rage. He cornered Damien outside a restaurant, shouting loud enough for everyone to hear. "You think you can keep this up? You're nothing but a parasite. You'll pay for every lie, every signature you forged." Damien didn't flinch. He smirked as if he owned the ground. Harvey stood on. People gathered, phones out, recording. For a moment, I thought Harvey might swing at him. The tension was electric, one wrong move away from turning violent. I had to pull Harvey back. "Not here," I warned him. "That's exactly what he wants. He'll use it against us." But inside, I shared Harvey's fury. Later that night, I met with Nora again. I laid out everything we knew. She stayed calm, but her words were sharp. "Raymond, listen to me carefully. Damien wants you to lose control. If you strike too soon, he'll twist the story, and the law will side with him. We need undeniable proof, paper trails, forged signatures, recordings. That's the only way to bring him down legally. If you act on anger, you'll fall into his trap." I hated it. Every part of me wanted to fight back immediately. But she was right. Evidence was my only weapon. Still, my heart was heavy. My sister was broken, my daughter was lost, and my so-called son-in-law had me cornered. I drove home that night, with a storm inside me. Then just as I walked through the door, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Mr. Mercer?" a firm voice said. "This is the police department. We have a warrant for your arrest. Fraud and embezzlement. Officers are on their way to your home right now." I froze. My hands went numb. Fraud? Embezzlement? Damien's forged contracts. He'd set me up perfectly. As the line went dead, I heard the sound of sirens in the distance, growing louder, coming closer. And in that moment, I knew. Damien's plan wasn't just to ruin me in business. He wanted me in handcuffs. The sirens grew louder. My heart pounded like it would explode. Patricia stood frozen by the window, tears rolling down her face. "Raymond, what's happening?" she whispered. Before I could answer, red and blue lights lit up my driveway. The pounding on the door came next. "Police, open up." I opened the door with my hands raised. 2 officers pushed past me like I was already guilty. They read my rights, their voices cold and rehearsed. Patricia begged them to stop. "You can't take my husband. He hasn't done anything." But they didn't listen. One of them shoved papers in my face. "Mr. Mercer, you're under investigation for fraud and embezzlement. You've been moving stolen funds through shell accounts." I stared at him, stunned. "That's a lie. I've never touched a stolen dollar in my life." He didn't care. They cuffed me like I was a criminal. The metal cut into my wrists. My neighbors stood outside, whispering, staring. Damien had won this round. At the station they laid out the evidence. Bank transfers, signatures, emails, all pointing to me. But I knew the truth. These were Damien's traps. He forged documents, used my name, and made it airtight. One officer leaned forward with a smirk. "You might as well confess. The paper trail is solid. This will ruin you in court." I clenched my fists. "No, the only criminal here is Damien Black. He set me up, and one day you'll see it." They didn't believe me. Hours later, Nora came storming in. Her voice was sharp, commanding. "I want immediate access to all the documents you're using against my client. If there's even one irregularity, I'll bury this case before it begins." She looked at me with steady eyes. "Don't fold, Raymond. That's what he wants. He wants you broken before trial." Her words gave me air again, but inside, I still felt like I was drowning. When Harvey came to see me, he slammed his hand on the table. "This is nothing but smoke and mirrors. You hear me? Don't let him win. Damien wants you scared, desperate, and ready to quit. That's his play." I nodded though my chest was still heavy. Harvey was right. But what if the system sided with Damien? What if the lies looked more real than the truth? Meanwhile, Patricia visited me too, her eyes swollen from crying. She held my hand through the glass. "Raymond, please, don't lose yourself. You're stronger than him. Elena will see the truth eventually. She has to." Her words stung. Elena, my daughter. At first she avoided me. Damien poisoned her mind, made her believe I was corrupt. But deep down, I knew she was struggling. I saw it in her eyes when she finally came to see me. "Dad," she whispered, "I don't know what to believe anymore. Damien says you've been lying, that you've been stealing for years. But when I saw the police drag you out, something inside me broke. I don't want to think you're capable of this." My voice cracked. "Elena, you've known me your whole life. I would never betray this family. Everything I built was for you, for your future. He's lying. He's always been lying." She nodded slowly, but I could see the war inside her. Part of her still clung to Damien's words. Part of her wanted to trust me. Elliot, on the other hand, didn't doubt me for a second. He came rushing in with files. His voice was urgent. "Raymond, I found something. The officer assigned to your case, he has ties to Damien. They've been meeting in secret, payments, favors, dinners. He's not neutral. He's helping Damien frame you." My stomach turned. So the law itself is against me now. Nora grabbed the file from Elliot's hands. "Good work. This changes everything. If we can prove corruption in law enforcement, Damien's whole case starts to crumble." But we weren't safe yet. A week later, the courtroom was packed. Damien sat smugly in the back, watching. Patricia clutched my hand, whispering prayers. Elena sat near the front, torn between her father and her husband. Judge Ruark, a man with a reputation for being tough but fair, looked directly at me. His voice was heavy. "Mr. Mercer, this case is one of the most serious I've ever seen. Fraud. Embezzlement. If you're guilty, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. But if there is truth in your claim, then you must bring it forward. Truth or ruin. Those are your choices." His words echoed through the courtroom. Truth or ruin. As I looked across the room, straight into Damien's smug grin, I knew what was at stake. My freedom, my family, my name, and I swore, right there, I would not go down quietly. When Judge Ruark ended the hearing, I walked out with my head heavy but my heart burning. Damien thought he had won. He sat in the back, smiling like the devil himself, but something told me his mask would crack. People like him always trip when they think no one can touch them, and I was right. A week later, I heard from Elena. She came to me, nervous, her hands shaking as she clutched her purse. She looked pale, broken. "Dad," she whispered, "I think I made a mistake. Damien, he isn't who I thought he was." I froze. I didn't want to scare her off, so I spoke softly. "What happened?" She looked away, her voice trembling. "He's been bragging. He said you'd never beat him. He laughed about Mom's tears. And last night, I caught him on the phone, calling us fools. He said I was just a pawn in his game, that he'd use me until I was useless." Her eyes filled with tears. "Dad, I don't know what to do. I feel trapped." Hearing her words cut me deeper than any blade. My own daughter, betrayed in her marriage. And yet, she was here now. She was starting to see him for what he really was. "Elena," I said firmly, "listen to me. You're my blood. You don't belong in his shadow. If you want out, I'll protect you. But you have to be careful. He's dangerous." She nodded, and then whispered, "I can help you. I can get you things. Emails, calls, anything. Just promise me. Promise me you won't let him destroy us." I held her hands through the tears. "I swear it. We'll bring him down. Together." For the first time in months, I felt hope. Damien's own arrogance was opening the cracks, and my daughter was slipping through them. Meanwhile, Patricia's health had started to improve. The stress nearly crushed her before, but now she saw a chance. One night, she sat with me at the table, her hand resting on mine. "Raymond," she said, "I'm done crying. I'm done living in fear. That man almost broke us, but I'll be damned if I let him take you from me. Stand tall. You've always been a fighter. Don't let him turn you into a victim." Her strength lit a fire inside me. For years I carried the burden of protecting them, but now, my family was standing with me. Then Elliot came running in with news that almost knocked me off my chair. "Raymond, you won't believe this." I dug deeper into Damien's finances, offshore accounts, Cayman Islands, billions hidden under fake companies, all in his name. I leaned forward, my jaw tight. "Can you prove it's his?" Elliot smirked. "Already did. Paper trails, wire transfers, It's him. He thought he covered it up, but he got sloppy. I couldn't stop my fists from clenching. This was it. The truth. Damien's greed would be his undoing. We handed everything to Nora. She reviewed the files for hours, her eyes scanning every line. Finally, she slammed the folder shut. This is gold. I'll file motions tomorrow. If he tries to move assets, we'll freeze them. Every dirty dollar he touched will be dragged into the light. For the first time, I saw Damien's empire trembling. But the devil wasn't done yet. Elena called me late one night. I could hear the fear in her voice. Dad, he knows I've been asking questions. Tonight he grabbed my arm. He looked me in the eyes and said, if I go down, you all burn with me. My blood boiled. He threatened you. Her voice cracked. Yes, I don't know how much longer I can pretend. I closed my eyes, rage shaking through me. Damien wasn't just coming for me anymore. He was dragging my daughter into his hell. That night I made a promise to myself. Damien thought his threats would scare us into silence, but all he had done was light the fuse, and soon his whole world would explode. The days after Damien's threat to Elena felt like walking on broken glass. Every step was painful. Every moment was heavy. But I knew one thing for sure. If we wanted to bring him down, we couldn't fight loud. We had to fight silent. Nora and I sat for hours at the kitchen table, papers spread everywhere. She laid out the plan piece by piece, her eyes sharp and steady. Raymond, she said, tapping the files, this isn't just about proving you innocent anymore. This is about exposing every rotten thing Damien has done. But we need to stay quiet. He can't suspect we're closing in. I nodded though, inside my chest burned with impatience. Silence wasn't easy when anger lived inside you. Meanwhile, Elena had made her choice. She slipped Damien's hidden files into her bag when he wasn't watching. She brought them straight to Elliot. Her hands shook as she handed them over. Please, she whispered, make this worth the risk. If he finds out, I don't know what he'll do. Elliot looked her in the eye. He won't find out. I'll bury him with this. Hearing that gave me a strange mix of pride and sorrow. Pride because my daughter had finally broken free from Damien's lies. Sorrow because she had to risk everything just to make things right. And while we worked in the shadows, Harvey played his part in the light. He approached Damien with a fake smile and an extended hand. Maybe we went too far, Harvey said, pretending to sound regretful. Maybe it's time we put the past behind us. Damien smirked, arrogant as ever. I knew you'd come crawling back. You Mercers can't survive without me. He bought it. He thought Harvey wanted peace. He didn't realize Harvey was just keeping him busy while the rest of us tightened the net around him. But no matter how busy I kept myself, the guilt wouldn't leave me. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling. My daughter almost lost herself because of the choices she made. Choices that led her straight into Damien's claws. I kept asking myself, had I failed her as a father? Did my stubbornness push her into his arms? One night, Patricia caught me sitting alone in the dark. She walked over and placed her hand gently on my shoulder. I used to hate your stubbornness, she admitted quietly. It scared me. I thought it would destroy this family. But now I see it's what kept us alive. You refused to break, Raymond. And because of that, we still have a chance. Her words dug deep into me. For years she had seen my strength as a burden, but now she saw it as our only shield. I held her hand and whispered, I'll never let him win, Patricia. Not as long as I'm breathing. While we leaned on each other, Nora worked like a machine. She sorted through every file, every bank record, every message Elena had risked her safety to get. She was building a case so strong, even Damien couldn't wiggle out. Finally, she looked up from the mountain of papers and said, this will hold in Judge Rourke's courtroom. If he gives me the floor, Damien won't just stumble, he'll fall. For the first time in a long time, I felt the ground shift in our favor. The silent war was working. Every move was quiet, every strike hidden. But we were getting closer, and then, everything changed. Late one evening my phone buzzed. It was Elena. Her voice was shaking. Dad, he knows. Damien knows someone betrayed him. He's tearing the house apart, he's screaming. I think he suspects me. My blood froze. My worst fear had come true. Damien wasn't blind anymore. His rage was boiling, and if he figured out Elena had switched sides, he wouldn't stop until he burned us all alive. The day of the hearing came. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum. Everything we had worked for, all the silence, all the secret moves, led to this moment. Damien walked into the courtroom like he already owned it. His suit was sharp. His smirk was even sharper. He strutted past me, leaning close enough for me to smell his cologne. "You don't belong here, Raymond," he whispered. "This is my arena. You're about to watch me crush you." I didn't answer. I just stared ahead. Inside, I burned. Judge Rourke entered, the room falling silent. Nora stood tall beside me, her stack of files ready. Damien's lawyer smiled, confident. He thought his lies would protect him again. Then the fire began. Nora's voice was steady as she spoke. "Your Honor, these contracts presented by Mr. Damien Cole are forged. The signatures do not match. We have expert testimony and forensic proof." The judge leaned forward. "Forged contracts. That's a serious accusation, Miss Green." Damien chuckled loudly, shaking his head. "Ridiculous. He's desperate. He'll say anything to make me look bad." But Nora didn't flinch. She laid out every piece of evidence, one by one. The forged signatures, the mismatched ink, the falsified timestamps. It was like watching a castle crumble, stone by stone. Then Elliot stepped up with his findings. Offshore accounts. Millions hidden under Damien's name. Wire transfers that linked straight to his fraud. The judge's eyes hardened. "Mr. Cole, do you care to explain these accounts?" For the first time, Damien's smirk faltered. He licked his lips, buying time. Business strategy. Perfectly legal. But his voice cracked. Everyone in the courtroom could hear it. And then came the moment that nearly broke me, yet also saved me. Elena walked to the stand. My daughter, my blood. She looked terrified, but her hands didn't shake. She faced Damien, her voice trembling at first, then growing stronger. "He threatened me. He threatened my family. He said if I didn't obey, he'd destroy everything we had. He lied to me. He hurt me. And I believed him, until I couldn't anymore." The whole courtroom gasped. Damien's eyes turned wild. He jumped to his feet. "Lies, all lies. She's weak. She's nothing without me." His mask slipped in front of everyone. The calm, powerful businessman vanished. What remained was the monster we had all seen in private. The judge banged his gavel. "Order. Sit down, Mr. Cole." But Damien didn't stop. He shouted, pointing at me. "At Elena. At Nora. You think you've beaten me? You think this court can hold me? I made all of you. I'll burn everything down before I lose." Guards rushed forward as his rage spun out of control. The judge's voice was firm. "Enough, Mr. Cole. You are hereby held in custody pending full investigation on fraud, extortion, and abuse." The color drained from Damien's face. He tried to fight, but the guards grabbed his arms. The courtroom watched in silence as he was dragged toward the exit. And then, just before they pulled him through the doors, he turned his head. His eyes locked on mine. His voice was low, but I heard every word. "This isn't over, Raymond. Not by a long shot." A chill ran down my spine. The war wasn't finished, not yet. But for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. When the courtroom emptied, I felt my legs grow heavy. The storm had passed, but my body still carried the weight of the fight. My hands shook. I didn't know if it was anger, relief, or both. Elena came to me slowly, her eyes red from tears. For a second she looked like a little girl again, the same girl I used to carry on my shoulders at the fair. She whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry. I was so blind." I pulled her close. My voice cracked. "It's over now. He can't hurt you anymore. You're free." She buried her face against my chest, sobbing. My heart broke and healed at the same time. I had hated her choices. I had cursed her betrayal. But in that moment, all I wanted was my daughter back. Patricia walked toward us. She looked older, as if the years of silence had carved lines into her face. She reached for Elena's hand, trembling. "I should have spoken sooner," Patricia said softly. "I should have protected you. I'm so sorry." Elena shook her head, crying harder. "No, Mom. I didn't listen. You tried to warn me. I didn't want to see it. They clung to each other, tears mixing with regret. For once our family felt real again. Not perfect, not healed, but real. Behind us Harvey let out a dry laugh, his way of cutting through tension. "Well, Raymond," he said, smirking faintly, "looks like you've still got your crown, king of the Grayson family after all." I gave him a tired smile. I never wanted a crown. I just wanted my family safe. Harvey's grin faded, his eyes softened, and he placed a hand on my shoulder. That was his way of saying he was proud without using the words. Nora gathered her files with a sharp snap. Her voice was calm, but her eyes warned me not to relax. "Don't celebrate too early. The legal fight isn't finished. Damien has money. He has connections. But the tide has turned. We've shown his true face. That matters." Her words grounded me. She was right. This wasn't the end, but for the first time in years, I felt hope. I sat down on the bench outside the courtroom, my head in my hands. My mind replayed everything. The lies, the forged papers, the threats, the nights I almost gave up. I had been so close to losing everything. My family, my dignity, even myself. I whispered to myself, was it worth it? All this pain, all this blood? Then I looked at Elena holding her mother's hand, at Patricia's tear-stained face, at Harvey standing guard beside us like a loyal brother. Yes, it was worth it, because I hadn't fought for wealth. I had fought for us. Elena knelt in front of me. Her voice was quiet but steady. "Dad, I can't erase what I did, but I swear, I'll earn back your trust. I'll rebuild what I broke." I touched her cheek, my voice low. "You don't need to promise me, Elena. Just live different, that's all I ask." The moment was heavy, but it was also healing. Then Nora's phone buzzed. She froze reading the message. Her eyes widened, then she looked at me. "Raymond, news just broke. The court has frozen Damien's assets, all of them, and investigators are opening a wider case. Fraud, abuse, money laundering, everything." Patricia gasped. Harvey muttered, Well, the walls are finally closing in." I felt my chest tighten, not with fear but with anticipation. The net was finally catching him. The man who thought he was untouchable was now cornered. But even as relief spread through me, I couldn't shake the tension in my gut, because men like Damien didn't go down quietly. I knew deep inside he'd make one last desperate move, and when he did, I'd be ready. The courtroom was silent. Everyone's eyes were on Damien as the judge read the final words. His crimes were laid out, one after another. Fraud, forgery, coercion. There was no escape left for him. Judge Rourke's voice was steady, almost cold. "Damien Wright," he said, "this court sentences you to 12 years in state prison." Damien's face turned pale. His lips trembled, but no words came out. He tried to look strong, but I could see the fear in his eyes. The same man who once controlled my family was now powerless. I felt my chest rise and fall with relief. For the first time in months, I could breathe. The judge turned toward me. "Mr. Mercer," he said, "you stood firm when many would have given up. You faced betrayal, threats, and humiliation, yet you kept fighting. This court commends your persistence and your courage." My throat tightened. Hearing those words in front of everyone, it felt like all the pain I carried had finally been seen. Beside me, Elena burst into tears. She threw her arms around me, holding me so tight I could barely move. Her voice shook as she whispered, "I'm free now, Raymond. I'm finally free." I hugged her back. I didn't say anything at first, because words felt too small for the moment, but deep inside, I knew this embrace was the real victory. Patricia stepped closer. For weeks she had been silent, afraid, almost broken, but now she reached for my hand with trembling fingers. "I doubted you," she said softly. "I stayed quiet when I should have spoken. But you still protected us. Thank you for saving our family." Her eyes filled with tears. I saw not only guilt in them, but also relief. Relief that the nightmare was finally over. Harvey leaned against the courtroom bench, giving me that half smile of his. "Well," he muttered, "you didn't just survive, Mercer. You won." I let out a small laugh, though my eyes were wet. It doesn't feel like winning, I said. It feels like getting our lives back. For a moment, I just stood there, looking at my family. We had been torn apart, manipulated, and nearly destroyed. But somehow, we had survived, and in that survival, we had found each other again. Then my gaze shifted to the other side of the courtroom. Damien sat in chains, guards standing beside him. He didn't look powerful anymore. He didn't look like the man who once threatened me in shadows, who controlled Elena with fear, who nearly crushed my spirit. He just looked small. Our eyes met. He glared at me, but there was nothing left in his glare. No control, no power. Only bitterness. I didn't need to say anything. My silence was louder than words. As the guards led him away, I whispered in my mind, "This is justice. This is the end." I thought about everything I had gone through. The lies, the betrayals, the nights I almost gave up, and I realized something. Revenge was never really about crushing Damien. It was about protecting the people I loved. Family can be broken, but truth rebuilds stronger walls. That was the real victory. I walked out of the courtroom with Elena by my side, Patricia and Harvey close behind. The doors closed on Damien forever. Outside, the sunlight hit my face. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. And that's how it ended. Justice was delivered. Damien was behind bars, powerless. My family was safe. My name was cleared. My heart was finally free. In the end, betrayal cuts deep, but truth and persistence can heal even the deepest wounds. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments.